Well, hello, beautiful friends. This is week 3 of Every Bit Counts challenge, and a lot happened. This is a big week in August when the food starts rolling in from the garden and you've got to figure out what to do with it, and fast. Here's the recap. Okay, 7 pints of salsa that is canned. There's a video on that. 1 gallon of fermented salsa. There's also a video on that. 1 gallon of Curtido, also a video on that. Then 8 pints of pickled cabbage, that will be in this video. 2 gallons of celery for stock. So that means that basically the celery that came out of the garden that wasn't looking so great, that was like really thin stalks, I just cut up the leaves and I cut up the stalks and I just threw them in gallon Ziploc freezer bags, and those are in the freezer. And then when I go to make stock, I just pull a handful of those out. I do things like fennel. I have some fennel fronds that I froze, pea pods you can do, bits of onions, bits of carrots, anything that you've got a vegetable kind of scrap, you can throw in the freezer and then just turn that into stock. 2 gallons of frozen blanched celery leaves for soup. Okay, so basically this is just celery and the leaves chopped up, a quick blanch in a pot of boiling water, and then laid it out on a baking sheet, froze it, pulled it apart, like just broke it up into chunks, put that in the gallon baggies, and then put it in the freezer. If I have a soup that I'm starting that I want it to be heavy on the celery, that's when I'll use those. Then a ton of celery powder. So I don't even know how much yet because I'm still working on dehydrating the celery leaves. So I've got a huge giganto bowl of the leaves that I've already dried, and then the second one is in the dehydrator now. I had to turn it off because it's too loud to make a video with. And then we've got all that green sauce, so that will be in this video. I had two quarts of beef and potato soup for the freezer, so that's just a dinner that I had made. We didn't eat it all. I put it in those freezer ready-tainers, and then that's like a meal ready to go. I harvested a bunch of celery and carrots from the garden. The carrots had carrot root fly or carrot rust fly, so that was kind of a bummer. And then the celery is ready to go, so everything just needs to be chopped up. So that'll be this coming week. I'll be doing soup starters and I'll do a video on that. And that pretty much wraps up the week. There's little herbs here and there, calendula, more peppermint, lemon balm, tulsi, things like that that come in and just get dried, straw flowers that are being dried for my wreath. So there's little bits and pieces that are always happening, but that was like the main bulk of it. So that was a really good week. I'll link the salsa videos and the Curtido video down below. So I hope you enjoyed this week's video. In this huge bowl, I have celery tops, kale, and carrot tops. I've got all my carrots here. This is from the first harvest from the garden, and a ton of celery. And I'm not going to use like all of the celery tops just for the pesto. I'm going to dry a lot of these. And believe it or not, everything you see here will probably fit easily into this jar. So I am just taking, to make this really easy, I'm taking my scissors and I'm just cutting the leaves off, and then separating them this way. Isn't it wild how much is celery tops versus celery? So these are all going to become soup starters. These are going to be dried, and this will become the pesto. I have a catch-22 here because I need to get these out so that I can get these in to soak. So I'm going to pull these out, get them drying on the counter now, and then we'll make pesto. Okay, I think I have a better handle on things here. Celery is in a bowl, carrots are in a bowl. Those are both waiting to be scrubbed. Celery leaves rinsing now in the same water that these were soaking in. These are all drying. We've got kale, we've got celery leaves, we've got carrot tops, and these are all going to become a pesto that are blended together. I imagine it's going to make quite a bit of pesto. I might actually make a green sauce. So I'm calling it pesto, but I'm not sure I'm going to add nuts or cheese or anything like that. That kind of classically makes it pesto. I think I may just be doing lemon juice and olive oil and salt and pepper, but we'll see. We'll see how it tastes, and then I'll decide. So that's a lot of greens. Okay, it's 5 a.m. or maybe it's 6 now. I've been up since 5 trying to get all these loose ends accomplished. This time of year, when the food comes in, if you don't take care of it, it can go bad, and that is not why we put into all this work. So I have my cup of coffee. It's decaf, but it still seems to serve me. I'm downstairs, so I won't bother anybody. I'm gonna get this green sauce made up. You can do this with any top of anything. So if you have turnip tops, radish tops, carrot tops, anything that you might think, like, I don't know how to use this, I don't know what to do. You can do this with any dark green. I'm using a kale. I've got the celery leaves and carrot tops, and I'm just gonna put it all together, and this will be a green sauce that we can put. You could do chicken and rice with this green sauce. You could turn it into a dressing, a marinade. Like, it just has so many possibilities, but basically we just don't want to waste this. Look at all this food here. This is like major nutrition packed in this bowl. We're gonna get this down to, like, you know, this tiny amount. So I'm just going to be doing oil, salt and pepper, and lemon. That's it. I'm not making a pesto. I just added oil and lemon, and now I'm shoving greens in here. I'm not gonna care about what quantities of which green I have, because I will eventually just mix all this together. This will make a bunch of containers for the freezer. You can do them at any portion size that you think you'll use when you go to thaw them. How much olive oil or lemon do you use? I use just enough to get the greens moving and rolling. What is in the pot right here is a large green cabbage and a small purple cabbage that have been shredded, and then I put about 3 tablespoons of a pickling salt on them, a kosher salt. So basically it's like 2 tablespoons per head of cabbage for the salt, and I had like 1.5, so I did 3 tablespoons. You rub it in, you refrigerate it overnight, and then you rinse it really, really well a couple times till you can get the majority of that kind of salt off and whatever liquids are in there. And then you just have this really nice brined cabbage. You're supposed to heat up the brine and then add the vegetables, but I'm doing it differently just because it's already in the pot. So so then I'm gonna do, gosh, I don't know what this is. Let's see how much it is. These are some julienne carrots. One, it's about a big 2, so maybe 2.5 cups of carrots. 2 cups of water. Oh, actually, I'm doing a 1.5 batch, so 3 cups of water. 2.5 cups of white vinegar. So that's for 1 cabbage, so I'll do 1.25 cup for my extra little cabbage. Then 2 1/3 cups of sugar. I'll add that 1/3 cup for my extra cabbage, and then I'm gonna get another measuring cup. You can see I'm so off my game right now. Bear with me. I'll tell you what I did down below. Okay. Then I'm using another recipe that I'm kind of incorporating the spices from that one. So there's a ball recipe, and this one is from Fresh Preserving. So I'll link, you know, the ball book that I'm using, and then the Fresh Preserving website link. But I'm gonna put some allspice berries in here, and I'm gonna put a couple of cloves in here, not too much. You could certainly use a spice bag. I don't mind if these end up in one of the jars or a couple of the jars. So I'm just doing it this way. You could add it to, if you want to make sure you have one in each jar, you could certainly do that. And then we're just gonna get this dissolved. So like I said, you know, the instructions are you make the brine and then you add the vegetables. I'm doing it a little bit off because my vegetables, my cabbage was already in the pot. But it will all be fine. See, this is what we worry too much about, these little things like this. It's all going in the same jar. You just want to make sure you get the sugar to dissolve. All right, this is looking beautiful. It's probably, the purple cabbage is probably gonna bleed a little bit. So I might have a nice purple color in here, but we'll see what happens. So I'm gonna put the vegetables in first, and then I'll come back and top it off with the brine, because I wanna make sure that I'm not just canning up a brine. I wanna make sure I have all these lovely vegetables in there. This is so pretty. Look at that. Okay, that is 5 pints of a pickled cabbage in the water bath canner. I am going to set the timer for 15 minutes once it comes to a rolling boil. When the 15 minutes goes off, I will turn off the heat. I'll let it sit there for 5 minutes, and then I will remove my cans just to avoid any siphoning, which means the liquid starts to come out. It doesn't make your jar unsafe, it just, you're losing your food. I'm having this moment where I'm like, this is ridiculous. I am trying to salvage these carrots that are basically destroyed. Some of the carrots I get this much, and part of me is like, why am I doing this? Am I really gonna stand here and do this? And the other part of me is like, I grew these. Like, I grew these. This is food. I want it. So I'm probably gonna stand here and keep doing this. Okay, that task is done. I'm not sure how worth it is, because some of them don't taste very good. They're like super bitter, but it is done. I realized why I didn't like this. I hate using vegetable peelers. I rarely peel carrots. These obviously had to be. But it's the one task in the kitchen that I think is so tedious and boring and ridiculous. I avoid vegetable peelers at all costs. Okay, so that was 3 solid weeks of preserving something every day. Some days being the tiniest little bit, like a dried herb, and some days being like a big canning day or a big fermenting day. And it all just adds up. I can start to see it adding up now. I hope this inspires you. Sending love to your hearts. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you.